looks like we are back in action for another round. Missing that. There you go. Everything else seems to have trickled in just fine. We'll just add a little bit for you. It's marginally less awkward. Oh, we should probably get the names correct, because that is not who is all in today's event. So let me get that updated for you guys here. Just give me a few moments here. That's going to take a second. So I'll leave you guys with the announcer bot for just a second, and be right back. All right, I am mildly back, at least back enough to see my PC. I've got that tweaked out for you guys there at the bottom. I know things are a little bit small. We've adjusted the track map so that you guys can see exactly what direction the wind is heading currently. Looks like this ping is just a touch annoying, so slide that good like that. That let's pick just a moment. Yeah, there you go. Now you can see what's going on. Looks like we tune in right with Nick Cruz as he's having a little bit of a moment. So feels a little bit like it's our fault, but other than that, we are good to go. Just taking a look around to see if there's any issues. I'm just taking a look around, making sure we don't see anybody reporting any issues yet. We'll hold tight though and see, as I will probably end up having to bite my tongue on that one. We are going to be having the secondary race going at some point tonight. Currently waiting for that stream to kick off, but keep it on in a minute. All right, looks like people are just having a couple questions about the real penalty and stuff. So that is one of the differences that we've got today. Real penalty will be in use on the grid. So these guys have a little bit tighter track limits. It's going to be a little bit harsher as they will have to navigate pit limiters, all that sort of stuff. A couple of things that they definitely haven't worked with before. Just taking a look to see as everybody starts to load into the various events. The rookie race does seem to be missing one or two, but we'll see who else goes. Of course, we have someone asking right now. Sorry, just trying to do a little admin work. I know I'm not the most exciting announcer just yet. I promise for qualifying we'll be getting things moving along a little bit more. But right now, we are at the mercy of the grid as we see a few more getting in here. So currently we've got 8 guys in the real amateur event. Taking a look to see how things come along in the rookie event. I'm sure with how much time people have had to practice, we'll see people creep in a little bit closer to the actual event start. Just going to keep an eye on the various chats again and go from there. We are going to get the drone cannon operating tonight for those of you who are fans, so don't worry, that will be back. Other than that, tonight is business as usual. So it's week 1 of a 5-week season. That's going to be the big change for a lot of you who've been watching for the other 6 seasons now that we've done here and back in the original days on Twitch. And those of you who just partaked and the ones that weren't broadcasted. So come a long way. This overlay is brought to you by Cameron Designs. Does a phenomenal job. Fine young man out of Australia, and he fucking rips these graphic designs like it's nothing. I don't know if that Australia part's true. I just like vaguely remember Josh saying that at one point. So we're gonna go with it, regardless of whether or not it's true. But yeah, he is responsible for most of the cool looking liveries you end up seeing on our racetracks here. So always nice to have some representation by him. And he is, of course, the man who designed our usual safety car, which hopefully we won't have to bring out. So different in the season. Like I said, it's going to be 5 weeks. So only 1 race dropped, and there are no short races. All 5 weeks will be a long race that will require a pit stop. So we're hoping that that will lead to some strategy and some careful planning amongst the racers. Just gotta adjust something in my mic. We'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. Let's get settled in and get this drone cam rolling. Today, I'm expecting nothing shy of greatness over here in the rookie end of things. Already seeing a lot of people start to do that here. Jump in, rather. Sorry, I'm all over the place. This is always the chaotic part of the session as everybody's trying to navigate their various issues and things, but it's looking pretty good. I know we're still going to get Cook in. I'm sure at some point we'll see his brother over on the rookie end of things. But for now, it's my personal favorite part. It's time to get a little bit of drone cam action in. Let's take a look at the grid as it stands. Whoa. Look at this. It's got a mind of its own today. You know what? Maybe he was just going around that turn when I lost it. There we go. Yeah, okay. She's flying like normal. So we're on with Fudzy here. He actually has brought a Canada Post livery to the party. This thing looking mighty good. The number 19 racer. Those of you up north, I'm sure you're a little bit familiar with this one, as it's plastered all over your delivery vans. Sure, always exciting to see. Albert Park is a very fun one. Not a tremendous amount of elevation change I'm seeing throughout the track here. And but gorgeous views all around as these guys come around this lake here. Tons of beautiful straightaways, lots of great overtaking opportunities here into some rather tight bends. So I'm sure we'll see a few recreations, if you will, of the Oscar and Max and Lando and Max moments from Miami. What a great race. Well, for the most part. Didn't go poorly, and I think that's what counts. I thought it was really exciting. Makes it hard to be a Lando fan sometimes, as much as I love the guy. He is still my favorite, but he does say some things after races, I'll admit. But anyways, I thought it was a good showing. I personally was excited to see that 16-lap battle between him and Max play out. My map is currently probably still set to show. Oh no, it's not set to show the classes. It's interesting that I'm not seeing any of these guys on the actual map itself at the moment. Very bizarre. Something is definitely off with the track map, so you're not seeing all the racers on it for some reason. I'm not sure what might be causing the desync there on my end. See if there's anything I can do to kind of... I don't have it set for class phase. Huh. Interesting. I guess we'll have to see how that goes. Well, we'll let Thorn go by and the new racer as we lock on with Max Yang, another racer who's brought a new livery to the party. You see a couple of our veterans go by as Max sizes up the track in that 248 racer. Just taking a look around, he's got a ton of great sponsors there. I want to say that's like the Humane Society. Something definitely for animals, but either way, we love to see it, everything around. I'm sure Max will get to us on who those sponsors are at some point, so we can clarify throughout the race. Watching Max now make his way around. I'm not seeing any corner names pop up in my track description, so we are going to have to get a little bit creative on our end. But I'm going to try and jump on with someone whose dot I can see on the map. That's going to be Brett Anderson. And see if that's any better. Wonder if I do like a little back to pits thing, if that'll help. Does not seem like it did. But anyway, we're going with Brett Anderson heading into turn 1. Looks like he's trying to set a little bit of a time here. He's currently at a 2:17. Unclear if he's doing a full fuel run at the moment or not. But certainly barreling down the first straightaway into, we'll call it Shell Corner. As he maneuvers his way through the parking lot with class. So it looks like in front of him there, Brett may have Max Yang, actually, who we were just on. He's making some good time as they get closer and closer through the UBS turns. Fine with it. Down the Lakeside Straight, Brett actually seems to be on fire. I'm guessing that Max might have a little bit more fuel than Brett because Brett is really moving on him. Though it could just be a good exit as he works his way through the chicane there and explodes down the outside of the track into the second Lakeside run. And looks like Max lets off a little bit. He's going to go for the toe and let Brett try and work his way through a hot lap. Brett is a few tenths off his own pace, but we're really early on into practice, and with Parmesan's 2:14 on the board, it's clear there's time to gain just about anywhere. Thinking, wow, we got a nice line of cars here. I think that's going to be Josh Fulton. Oh, no, I stand corrected. That's Nick Cruz in another one of the new liveries, so we just keep getting lucky here. This one, the Macombi McAleer Racing. Well, Macombi McAleer Racing. I'm definitely butchering that. MMR Racing. Looking great in that number 5 car. I'm a sucker for the black and blue, as you guys remember with the Apache livery. That is still one of my more favorite ones. Pretty sure we saw him signed up for today's event, so we're hopeful to see him at some point. I am looking over at the broadcast, the real rookie race, and to see that we've got 6 members currently loaded in, so those guys are starting to fill up their grid as well. I believe the racer going as Trent is the one whose brother is Tommy Boy, currently sitting P2 in our real amateur event. Now, today's race is going to be an interesting one because we haven't really fully classed out the grid yet. Nobody knows who they're fighting against. Every point is on the line, and we're testing a new point structure. Rather than only getting points for getting certain positions within your class, you get more points for the overall finish as well. So we are going to break up the leaderboard into rankings at some point, but you can still get more points within your class for getting first overall as opposed to beating everybody and coming 10th overall. So basically every position matters. It makes these guys keep their head in the game a little bit more, try and get that angle, that advantage wherever they can. Still peeking around, not seeing any more issues popping up, so looks like everybody's kind of getting used to the flow of things here. It only took 7 seasons, but I'm proud of us. We made it work regardless. Been hanging out with Max Zhang for a little bit, but I'm curious to see where his time ends up. Seems like he let a few guys go by, tried to set himself up for a decent lap on this one. And he might have made himself the perfect opportunity here. We'll see. He's definitely gaining some time. Currently, it's only going to put him in contention with Pogo, maybe even Thorn. Again, without that track map, it's a little difficult to tell exactly where he is on the leaderboard. But he is coming around these final few corners, so he's going to set up somewhat of a decent time there. Crosses the board. Doesn't cross the board? Must have had a track cut along the way that we didn't see, because it does not get registered there as we jump to Tommy Boy. I'm going to see if I can do a little something about this, at least for myself. Yeah, see, there's one up there. Maybe I just need to close and open the map. Try that, get the freshie in there. And guess what? Didn't work. But we tried, and that's what matters. I do have a little cheat at the bottom now of the screen that you guys won't be able to see, but at least get a sense of where these guys are. As Tommy Boy makes his way into Sector 2, currently chasing down Max Yang. He's on an outlap, so kind of no reason to be too aggressive. These guys don't have anyone really behind them. But he is still trying to make every second count. They have a little under 10 minutes remaining of practice before they got to start to focus on setting their qualifying times. This is where you really want to start to test your fuel strategy. Try and dial things in. We have made it so one stop should be necessary based on the fuel consumption, but these guys have found ways to surprise us before. There's not a lot of tight corners in these tracks, so a lot of long straightaways to kind of conserve the fuel a little bit. Maybe some coasting around some of those lighter bends, but Tommy Boy trying to use this, I was going to say toe to his advantage, but he's really going for a full send. I think he's testing these drafting opportunities, trying to see where he can get clean passes off during the race. He knows he's going to have Brett Anderson right there with him based on the current times these guys are setting. So he's going to have to try and figure out a few unfamiliar angles to defend in, just going off the looks of things. Now, in the private practice sessions, Pet Zazbo, who's currently sitting P11 in the pits, has put up a 214.8, so the only one within striking range of Parmesan. And then we see two other 217s as well as a few 219s, but those ones you guys are looking at live. Tommy Boy's lowest is a 217.1 in the private practice session, so that could be a little bit of a help to him today. Unclear as to whether or not that'll go down. And look at that. Speaking about going down, we've got the Real Rookie broadcast now in the bottom corner of your screen. I know it's a little bit hard to see for you folks watching on your phone, but for the windowed viewers, at least you'll get a sense of what we got going on. So we've been hanging out with Tommy Boy for a little bit. I know we got one more car passing by here. I think that's going to be, still Max Yang. But let's take a look at this group of four making their way down the straightaway, or at least making their way to it. Again, issues with the map that we're kind of just hoping will resolve themselves momentarily. But let's check in with Pet Zazbo, who is going for his first out lap. This is going to be an interesting one to watch. This is the man who's come closest to Jesus' time so far. In fact, in his private session, he's only 0.4 off of what Jesus has done in this session. Now, it's a tough comparison, but at least shows some potential. Now, one thing here at Real Rookie Racing, track speeds or track temperatures do get a little bit warmer as we make our way deeper and deeper into the sessions. Qualifying will be broken up into two 15-minute stretches of weather, and then the race itself will be the final weather change. So it will get warmer. The tires will get a little bit hotter, and with these hard tires on the MX5 Cups, they absolutely need it to get things dialed in. So these times are not the final ones we're going to see. If anything, this really is just the practice. Reminder to those who are watching us tonight, if you've got anyone in particular that you'd like to follow, just let us know in the chat. We will do our best. I do have my co-host Jawa joining at some point before the race begins, so we look forward to seeing him on the broadcast with us as well. Got a few more generic liveries this time around. It's kind of funny. Proud of them. Everybody's just trying to represent. So, we made it with him through an out lap, but now comes the moment of truth. What can he put with it all on the line? He's only got enough time for 2 laps, so we'll have to make each one count. Can Zabo pull it off? Immediately going wide turn 1. It is not going to be on this one. So he is now in a race against the clock to try and get back and reset that time. Tommy Boy possibly looking for a way past Brett Anderson's time. Nope, he's on an out lap of his own, trying to race against the clock. Let's check over with Josh Fulton. I see he is up on his time as he begins a hot lap. got no one in front of him, no one behind him, but he is up currently 2/10, making his way into Shell Corner and heading towards the parking lot. So far, what we're seeing is a clean lap, unknown how this thing kicked off, but we're going to stick with him here as the other guys try and make it around for one last heater in practice. Kind of a funny name because it's the coldest the track will be this evening. Josh finding almost half a second now as he makes his way through the track. He's about halfway through as he passes along the first part of Lakeside Drive. He's got a hard chicane coming up. This is where a lot of racers lose a couple of tenths on a mistake. He sends it hard, but I believe that's going to be within track limits as he creeps down, lost a little bit of deceleration, or lost a little acceleration there. Coming down about 2/10 now, almost 3/10 on this straightaway. It's a very long straightaway to have slow acceleration into. And we see that lap coming together, though, as he gets a little bit more speed heading into the second part of Lakeside Drive. Or sorry, the final part of Lakeside Drive. So not a bad way to go. He's now kind of into the bit more comfortable part of the track. Only a few corners separating him as he's a second up on his time. So this will give him some good confidence as he creeps closer to Tommy Boy in the classic number 16 livery that we've come to know and love since I want to say maybe season 3. So that thing's been with us quite some time. Josh Fulton coming around the final bend, loses a couple tenths, but is still going to make his way down into the 18s. Almost had his way into the 17s there. I know he is going to be a man on a mission trying to make up that last second to Tommy Boy, and he will get the chance. But speaking of chances, the one we're interested in is this man right here, Zabo. So he manages to keep it clean this time around through Shell and does the same through parking lot. Certainly working every inch of the track. You see him getting very close to those walls, riding the curves to the best of his ability. Seems to be a little bit off whatever time he set last without the with the track cut, sorry, and that was a 2:17.6 from what we're seeing on the board. Brett Anderson just went with a 2:16.5, so that's going to be a challenge thrown to Tommy Boy to pick up his pace. Sabo living on the edge once more, but seems to have held on. Is he going to find those extra 3 seconds? And you can see now the flags waving all over your screen. That does mean that we've come to the end of the session. Parmesan, Brett, Rev, and Dance in the pits, calling it a day. We'll see how the other racers fare. Zabo making his way through the final part of Lakeside Drive, only a tenth up on that 1:17.6, if I'm looking at the times correctly. And loses that as we head around the sand trap. Rolex hairpin is where he can make time up, but he still seems to be dropping now, only almost half a second off his pace. Can he make something happen in the final corner? It doesn't look like it, but we haven't seen a clean lap yet, so this will be a time and at least give us a reference, even knowing it's half a second off of possibly some potential. Wow. 2:15.1. So we definitely missed something in the early parts of practice there, because that is an absolute heater of a lap. Let's see if we can jump over to Tommy Boy, who has just finished his lap as well. Drops down into the 2:16s, which I know he will be happy about. Max Yang coming around the corner with some big improvement, it looks like. Was it a clean lap? We'll find out in a moment's time. Working his way to the line and crosses it with a 2:21. Almost able to creep down into the 20s there. So definitely seeing a lot of good signs across the board for some good racing today as those guys continue to make their way across the track. I'm gonna let the auto cam take over for just a minute there as we wait for the qualifying session to begin. As always, a very exciting start to the season, even with just a few practice runs in. So, pretty happy with how these guys are doing so far. Thought I saw a little damage on Nick Cruz there, but never mind. I think he's just out racing around there. I think the shadow contour of that hood kind of makes it a little tricky to see sometimes. Well, we got the majority of the racers back in the pit. It looks like overtime is being gracious enough to give Max Yang one more go around, as well as give me a moment to step away. Again, don't forget, if you guys are here and you don't see the racer that you're trying to support, we do have two events this evening. We've got the real rookie race going on Speed Bump's channel. Quite literally, Speed Bump. You can find the live broadcast probably just by searching Real Rookie Racing and searching through live. We do have 6 racers over on the grid there, but we do have, I want to say, 17 signed up. So I'm expecting a few more to pop up during qualifying. It's 30-minute sessions for practice, 30-minute session for qualifying. So some people skip that and wait till the track gets a little bit warmer. They practice offline just to try and mimic those racing conditions. We all got our different plans. I should add like 1 minute to the qualifying here, or practice times here, just so that we can stagger the race starts. All right, and it looks like AutoCam has brought us back to ourselves. So we're just gonna wait for the overtime to wind down now. It looks like all the races are in the pit, so I'm pretty sure that time will come soon. In the meantime, qualifying has begun for our guys over in the rookie end of things. So why don't we give them a little bit of love for a moment, see what it is they got going on. Oop, I might not be able to do that. Hang on. Let's see. There you go. Nope. Still no. There she is. Okay. Got a lot of stuff there, but I'll let you guys kind of watch for just a minute. I know it's blurred as hell, but we can see right now we are on with Wasey as he makes his way through. He's going to be the first racer out on track over in the rookie end of things, so nice to see them underway. Speaking of underway, we are about to be the same. So let's get back to the action here, get this back to normal, and we'll see what we got going on. So it said don't leave the pit lane till green. And I was going to say, I think Tommy Boy immediately left the pit lane. A bunch of racers did. And I'm pretty sure probably got penalties for doing that. I don't know why they're all just going. It hasn't turned green yet. Let me jump over. Oh, well, I guess I can't. I'm looking for the real penalty admin panel. I can't find it for some reason. See that? Maybe that's what I'm looking for. Restart the session minus practice. Oh boy. Alright. Alright, hang on a second here. So everyone's gonna disconnect. And I will have to restart. So let's do that for now. Just a minute here. Technical difficulties. Per usual. When do we not? Give me just a moment here. Got a whole bunch of shit going on as it tries to load everything. Let me just make a quick announcement for and we're loading back in. All right. Everything is back underway. We should be good to go. In theory. And look at that. It fixed the track issue as well. Maybe that was for the best. We're going to count that as a win. And you guys can't see what I'm talking about. There you go. So we are on with Rev 174 as he makes his way through the first part of Lake Shore Drive. He was our first racer out on the track. Real penalty issue has been fixed. And everything should be good to go now. Just double checking. Yep, we are all set. All right, we get all our racers back in the grid now. 12 racers on here in week 1. Looks like we have made our way up to 7 over in the rookie event. So, starting to get a nice full grid here. Do see a few more joining. So actually this one might be a little bit of a bigger event than we thought. So that'll be nice and fun. Now it is a very big track. It's a 45-minute race. So we are expecting to see some guys spread out just a little bit. Things have been going pretty well for most of our racers, but that's because they've had some open air, some space to breathe. That's not going to last forever. The road is 3 degrees warmer now. We've gone up to 29 degrees Celsius, but the wind has died down. These guys did have an 11-kilometer-an-hour tailwind down this straightaway during the practice session, which was a relatively fierce headwind throughout most of Sector 2. So this could actually help times improve and balance out a little bit. Only time will tell. So Rev 174 going to be out on a hot lap. Considering he's going to be the first one out, I believe. Why don't we stay with him and see where he sets the tone? Heavy cloud coverage at the moment. The fog has lit off the track, so at least these guys have a nice long view ahead of them. Don't have to worry about those corners just slightly edging into view. Which thankfully we didn't have you guys subjected to too much, but you now see a little bit more of the surroundings. So keep on working through. Rev 174, 16 seconds up on a 235 was his previous lap. So that is going to put us somewhere around 219, I believe, but that is going to be a track cut violation, and Rev will have to take it from the top. We're going to turn over to Thorn, who's getting out of the way of Nick Cruz. A little bit of wheel-to-wheel action early on in qualifying doesn't really hurt too much, but not really the tone you necessarily want to set when you guys are trying to get a good, clean start to the season. So doing these kind of wheel-to-wheel battles here in the qualifying session kind of makes it so during the races, you guys are a little bit more inclined not to share the space and to battle out for the corners, but hey, it could also set the tone of I'm here to win, which everybody definitely has a chance to do. That's the thing with these long endurance events is one big mistake and it's pretty hard to get back into the hunt. So it's all about consistency and patience. We've seen guys podium before who are setting times very, very far off off the pace. So back in action now. Looks like everything else is working pretty or relatively smoothly. So we'll let things go as they stand. We were with Rev 174. Let's jump back a little bit here if we can see what some of these other racers are up to. Check it out. Thorn in the number 69 Noob Racer. Actually been doing a pretty good job. He had a strong showing in the rookie events last season. Strong enough that we figured he'd do better in company up top. So Thorn Maddox, I believe, sporting this livery as a sign that he'll be doing his best to keep up, but we're expecting good things. He's been vastly improving over the last couple seasons. 23 minutes remaining until the race itself. Obviously makes things interesting. I'm just looking, sorry, getting distracted here. We got 3 17s just went up on the board. Tommy Boy, Brett Anderson, and Nick Cruz all kind of running somewhere close together. I actually want to jump over to Josh Fulton on his hot lap as he comes down the final straightaway, see where he ends up. That number 23 racer, still the car of our hearts here. Does not get a clean one in, but it would have been a 2:18.3, so not a bad way to start the day. And we'll jump over to Pogo, who may or may not be on a clean one. I think he's actually going to be on an outlap looking at the Delta situation. I'm going to say yes, that is an outlap for them. But Jesus, on the other hand, also known as Parmesan. Ooh, in that Raspberry Racer, I forgot to show a little bit of love to that one. Coming across the line here with no clean lap time, a sign that these guys are pushing real hard, but gives us plenty of time to take a look at this Raspberry Racer as we join him on what he hopes to be his clean hot lap attempt here in the first 10 minutes of qual. Again, that weather change is coming. Things are going to get a little bit brighter, a little easier to see, and a little bit warmer. So more heat in the tires. That wind could go any direction. Man, this thing is beautiful. And he's handling it beautifully. Extra nice to see. He is on rails, sending things around here in the Raspberry Racer. Using every inch of the curves to his advantage. You can see just narrowly staying off the grass, so very comfortable with the dimensions of this car as he heads into the chicane towards the second part of Lakeshore Drive. Gets a little bit of a bump from the curb, so probably cost himself about a 10th there if I had to guess. Does look like he's losing about 100th at a time here on the second part of the drive. It's a very long straightaway. You really want to be at your maximum advantage into it. And he's a little light off the gas early. I don't know if this is still going to be a clean one, but he's certainly driving like it is. So 4/10 up on his outlap. A lot of pressure on because he's got Pogo right here next to him. I think Pogo's in somewhat of a clean lap, but he's going to let Parmesan go by. Parmesan losing a couple tenths as the acceleration takes a hit from the inside maneuver, trying to get around Pogo. Now only 3/10 up this time as he heads through the Rolex hairpin. This is a tight one, but he manages to keep 2 wheels on the track. Only really needed 1, but carries through and into the back straight with some good pace. I think this is going to be one hell of a lot. Szabo did just set the pace with a 2:15.5. Can Parmesan respond? Oh, just barely misses it. So by 1/100th of a second, 0.011 to be exact, Szabo does hold on to the fastest lap attempt and seems to already be a 10th up on his time. Looking now at the live times, it does seem to be a clean attempt so far. He's already working his way into sector 3, so this will be for all the marbles. 3/10 up now on his time, getting closer and closer to that 2:14. It seems like both of these racers are capable of. Can Szabo power through? Certainly giving Parmesan a run for his money here in the early parts of qualifying. The weather change could help shake things up even further. Again, these guys are not doing this in peak temperatures just yet. Things are going to continue to get warmer and warmer until the race itself, which is where I'm sure we will see those mid to low 2:14s that I know these guys can put up. Szabo currently running to go across the line and goes with a 2:15.1, just shy of the 14. Let's see if Parmesan can respond. He is working towards it as he rounds into, kind of lost the plot here, but I want to say this is the third part of Lakeshore Drive, third and final. Number 48 racer apparently not appearing on our mini map at the moment. Although sometimes that issue does fix itself. So, wow, Parmesan found a lot of time there. Something about his entrance on that first lap he didn't like. That might have been where he had to make the awkward inside move on Pogo earlier, and that has certainly helped him regain a little bit of pace here. It'll get him closer to Szabo, but not into those 14s that he was sitting at around the practice session. We've been paying a lot of attention to those two, though. Let's jump around. I can't pay too much more attention to Josh. That's going to be clear favoritism, which there certainly is none of. No collusion happening here. As we jump on with Dance in the number 47 Logitech Racer. I believe that's Rev 174, putting a little bit of pressure on him here in qualifying as he works his way into the main straightaway. I think this is just his outlap, so he's going to have a clean attempt. Rev trying to use the toe to his advantage to get a couple more tenths out. Does get a 10th actually, and finds himself at 2:18.5. That's a pretty quick pace for a Dance to have to hold up right away, because it sounds like Rev is keen to get another one in. I don't see him dropping back too much or really at all. Dancy, though, not afraid of the pressure, really working his way down the main straight into Shell Corner. And I think staying within limits there. Certainly not going to be the fastest lap, but a strong starting point as we're not even halfway through the qualifying session, so we'll have plenty of opportunity to improve. Currently you do hear Rev moving a little bit closer. Hopefully he's going to be a little bit patient and try and let Dance get this full lap in. But looking at the timing board, Rev is actually very far up on his own time. He might want to try and make something happen into the S's. This is going to be interesting to see who concedes? It's going to be Dancy. So Dancy thinks that Rev is up on his lap. Unfortunately, the maneuver did cost Rev 7/10, as there wasn't a decisive exchange, but the move was made overall in true in true Real Rookie Racing fashion. We'll take a peek now at some of our other racers on the grid. Brett Anderson, we saw put up a 2:16. Same with Tommy Boy during the qualifying sessions. We are now starting to wonder just how much the wind was coming into play, as these guys all seem to be a little bit off their pace. Oh, and as I say that, Parmesan goes up with a 2:14.429. So I take it back. Not off his pace, gets right back to it. I think he's only 3/10 away from his personal best of the private session. And we've got Zabo now, who's got the gauntlet thrown down to him to make something happen. He has just begun a new lap. We'll take a look and see where his Sector 1 comes in before jumping over. But we do have a change in the weather that might throw these guys off, because it definitely got brighter, and that became one fierce crosswind. 16 kilometers an hour, pushing these MX5s across the bow. That's going to be interesting as the track increases to 30 degrees Celsius. And we get to see a little bit more action here. Brett flying through a little bit off his pace. We'll jump over to Zabo to see how he's doing. Oh, looks like he's already liking the difference. 3/10 up on his time, as the new conditions are probably starting to send some heat into those tires. We'll see if that wind changes the way he's got to handle the car at all. Certainly looks like it is pushing it a little bit further as he takes it wide out. Although, right now it'd be pushing him in towards the track, as there's going to be a little bit of a tailwind down this part. So take a look at his delta. Doesn't actually seem to help him too much. Again, these cars not the most aerodynamic, so really wind hurts more than it ever actually helps them, which sounds funny, but tends to be the case, or feel like the case, when you're behind the wheel. Crosswind, though, not really doing too much to hurt him. It's going to be his turn into the final straightaway here. That costs him some time. He does get into the 2:14s, but for a moment, he had a chance at dethroning Parmesan. We'll look over now to someone else looking for improvement. That's going to be Pogo. Oh, who was having a good lap by the looks of his first two sectors, but his final one is not going to be one he's too happy about. And we'll check in with Fudzy, though, a little bit up on their pace, working their way through some of the final corners, aiming for the Rolex hairpin, almost 3.5 seconds up on their lap. Will put them pretty damn close to contention as they try and creep closer to that top 10 battle. This is going to put them ahead of Pogo and into the top 10, but will it get them in front of Dancy and put him a little bit of a sacrifice? Not quite. So not able to find the last few seconds there. We'll have to make something else happen in this next lap. Just to give you guys an update over on the rookie side of things, we've got Matt Doom Delara with a 2:19.6 currently leading the way, followed by Noah F with a 2:20, Bullet with a 2:22, Wasey with a 2:23, Rick with a 2:24, Spike with a 2:25, and Trent with a 2:27. Another racer, Go Brian, is currently in the pits, has not yet gone out for a lap, but we'll see where they land along the way. Also going to check in with Tommy Boy, well, I guess we'll check in with Nick Cruz for a moment here, as he's on a beautiful lap on a beautiful day. You can see that sun starting to peek out from behind the clouds. Definitely starting to warm things up. Nick already a couple of tenths off his time, so trying to find some advantage where he can. Hopefully he can make a little something happen around this next part. It's this turn towards Rolex. that really cost you. Although I think he got a little bit too far on the inside of those curves. That dirt really slowing him down. Possibly helping cool his tires, though, if that is the plan. As he makes his way around the final straightaway, or makes his way around the final corner into the straightaway. And we'll get a few more chances. So let's check in with Josh Fulton. He's going to be chalking this lap up, I'd imagine, and focusing in on his next one. So we'll hone in with his thoughts for a moment. Looking at this part of the track, I'd say he's fully focused on this board right here, trying to brake right before it and give himself some rotation into, we got to name this one. Oh yeah, the sand trap, I think is what we called it, which is an apt name. I could already see some tire tracks going off that way. So others have fallen. A lot of guys cutting that Rolex hairpin very tight. You can see by the tracks on the inside. Josh Fulton lining himself up for a fresh one here. We're going to stay on with him and try and see what comes of this next lap. So his initial acceleration is going to be a little bit off his personal best pace, but only loses a couple hundredths. Easy stuff to make up on a track this size. Got some good acceleration heading into the main straightaway. It's all about keeping the track short as possible. You want to hug that inside edge into the last possible second and whip the car around through shell corner, which he does. A little hairy on the track limits, but we will see in a moment's time. Makes his way through the parking lot with ease, currently battling his own delta, getting a little bit up, a few hundredths at a time as we work our way through the Pirelli wiggles. Loses a tenth or two there, but can gain it back through the UBS swing into Lakeshore Drive. So this is where you can really make up some time if you had a good entrance, which it seems like he did, carrying it through with a lot of pace towards that chicane. And can he hang on to the overall lap? Manages to keep it clean through there. Another key entrance, which he nails. So now he's going to be gaining on his own pace, a couple hundreds at a time through the second part of Lakeshore. This is one of the longer parts where that acceleration really counts the most, and he managed to hang on to it. So a little bit of time to play with through the SS into the final stretch of the Lakeshore Drive. He really used that cushion up through that section. Definitely still on a hot lap. It was at sector 2 that killed him a little bit, but he can try and carry it back. Works his way through the sand trap, doesn't get caught, tries to fire through. Oh, maybe this was the sand trap. Oh no, we'll have to work on that next lap. But on Josh's side of things, he seems to have found about a half a second in towards the Rolex hairpin. This is going to be big for his lap because it could put him all the way up to P6, possibly in contention. Oh, it's not going to put him into P5, but definitely could get him into P6 here with a strong finish, which he has. So 2:17.8, getting closer and closer to Brett Anderson, who I know he is familiar with. Could be entertaining to watch later on. Currently with Max Yang, who just saw a little bit of improvement, almost creeping into those 220s. And we've got 3 guys in the 22s at the back here, all looking for their own advantage. Oops, excuse me. I'm going to jump over to Zabo because he's currently still looking for a way to catch up to that number 48 Raspberry Racer's time. Parmesan sitting in the pits, holding on to that 2:14.4, just trying to watch and see what comes his way. Conserve his energy for the 45-minute race ahead. It's just something that can get very tiring, so you really want to put forth your best effort. Save that mentality. We've got guys who have already done 9 laps here in the practice or the qualifying session. Add that to what could be, I want to say, 10 to 12 laps in the practice session. That's a good amount, considering there's still 45 minutes to go. And speaking of 45 minutes to go, what a great time to join my co-host Jala.
How y'all doing this evening? Sorry I'm a little bit late to the party.
Oh, you're doing great. We got 5 minutes until the actual race kicks off. I was kind of saying 45 minutes to be dramatic, but everybody kind of settling in, doing pretty good. Looks like we may have a straggler in the rookie race. Matt Doom currently putting up a 218 over in that end of things, so probably will be getting moved up to join these guys next week.
Let me get myself situated here so I can see everything you're seeing.
Absolutely, absolutely. I did share my screen with you, so that should help things out
Yep.
just a little bit.
I indeed can see what's going on.
Nice, nice. So I'll walk you through the track. We came up with some colorful names along the way.
Beautiful.
So obviously this is the start-finish straight. It keeps things nice and easy. And we are working our way through turn 1. They're not all so simple, so don't get excited.
Alrighty. Making it hard on me.
Into the Pirelli, or into the main straight. That's what this one is, the main straight. See, I get myself confused a little bit. This one's the main straight, you know, they're doing pretty good. Sabo on a hot lap here. Going around Shell Corner. In towards the parking lot. You know, you see it? You see it?
Yep,
You know,
I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it.
You see it? You smell what I'm stepping in?
I do. 100%.
Working his way into the Pirelli Wiggles. That's what this one is.
Okay, I like that. The
Wiggles. Yeah. And then around the UBS bend into the first part of Lakeshore Drive.
Oh, I like this. I'm liking this.
So then this is the chicane. It's kind of, you know, chicane adjacent.
Chicane.
And then this is the second part of Lakeshore Drive, which is one of the longer ones here, just for your own notes.
Perfect.
Into the S's.
Oh. It is an S.
It is an S. It's like a Z, really.
Yeah.
Into the Z we could go with. Into the third part of Lakeshore Drive, you know.
Yep, I'm seeing it.
And then this is where we get messed up, because I apparently have been calling both that corner and this corner the sand trap. So one will have to be the sand trap. I think we'll do the first one's the sand trap. This is the sand dune.
Okay, sand dune.
And then we got the Rolex hairpin.
Okay.
Into the final corner.
That. Perfect.
Yeah, you see, I feel like straightforward. It'll flow. So just so you know, you're late to the party, so I'll give you a little recap, and anyone else who's just jumping in right before the race. Parmesan and Zabo are going head-to-head in the 14s. Nick Cruz and Tommy Boy have cracked the 216s, but don't count Brett Anderson out, because we saw him get into those 216s during practice. Josh Fulton has been creeping closer and closer towards Brett Anderson and Tommy Boy's times in the mid-low 217s. I think he almost got a low 217 in practice, so we're hoping to see that during the race itself. We've got Rev and Dance in the 18s, Max Yang and Thorns in the 19s, and Fudzy and Pogo in the 22s, so everybody seems to have a friend.
Oh, definitely. Everyone's pretty close here. I mean, there is a little bit of a spread for this qualifying, it seems, but everyone, like you said, does have someone to stick with, and I'm sure that we'll see some of those times these faster guys drop off a little bit in the race when they're under some pressure and aren't able to take their perfect ideal line. Pull up all of my live timing here so I can see who's going where and how fast. Perfect.
Oop, seems like we have a sound issue.
Yep, now it's back. I got it again.
There you go. I'm a
And correct me if I'm
self-inflicted
wrong.
sound issue, I'm realizing.
All right, happens. And is it Het Stabo? Is that how you say that? I don't want to mispronounce that name, but I'm definitely going
So
to. So apologies.
I was going with Zabo, you know?
Zabo, I like that. I like that.
Zabo, yeah, yeah.
Zabo.
And then you haven't seen the new liveries for season 7, so we've got the Raspberry
Not
Racer
yet.
here for
Oh,
Parmesan. Then we've
very
got
nice.
who else here? Nick Cruz in the MMR, Macombi
Awesome.
McCallier Racing. It's definitely been butchering that. Brett Anderson actually going to get to represent his Minnesota Wild that he gave last season but wasn't really able to use. So we're counting it as a new adjacent one. And we got Max Yang in the number 248. I know this logo. I just can't remember it for the life of me. But I feel like it's like Humane Society or something like that. But anyway, it's a pet-friendly livery, which we're big fans of here. The real prize is the competition. I like it. So
Well stated.
a lot of fun
Little
things there.
commentator's curse there.
And then we've got Fudsy in Canada's favorite postal service livery.
Awesome. Like these liveries this season. Looking really good. I've seen quite a few posted in the Discord there. I'm really excited to see how they do on the grid, on the track, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's been doing a good job holding their own here in qual. I think everybody's kind of decent with where they are on the grid, but we'll see where things end up. Little fun piece of trivia for you. We do have Cook's brother in the rookie event tonight, so that'll be exciting to watch his debut. I believe he is under the race name Trent, possibly, maybe. Hold on, I can confirm in a moment here.
Awesome. While you do that,
Yeah,
I'm going to step
Trent.
away and get me some water before this awesome race tonight.
All right. Well, while you step away, I am going to step away. No. um, but yeah, we're definitely in for a good one. We got guys finishing up their overtime laps. No one really on hot laps at this point. It's all just gonna be for fun for here on out. But man, it's gonna be an exciting one. Just a few minutes separate us and the first race of the season. We already have the rookie guys lined up on the grid. You can see in the bottom right corner of your screen, their lights are currently up. You can check that out over in the Real Rookie broadcast. Just to give you a little bit of their run through. The lights are out and away they go. You've got Matt Doom working his way down the track. Looks like he got a very good launch. I see a little bit of head-to-head action going on between himself and Noah F, maybe? It's actually going to be Bullet and Noah F behind him. So Doom gets a clean one. Bullet tries to go in for the deep dive, but ends up having to slot back behind them. We see Noah F able to keep it close with Matt Doom, stay within the drafting train as all of those racers head through together. So no incidents through turn 1. Seems like those guys are all racing with a lot of respect for one another. Things get a little hairy in shell corner, but no bumping, no grinding, nothing they can't come back from. So a lot of clean racing going on over in the rookie event. Hopefully that bodes well for us tonight. But wouldn't it just be a little bit fun to see a crash or two?
We're guaranteed going to have a little bit of carnage this evening. It's the first race of the season, if I'm not mistaken, and it's always a good one.
You are not. I was just letting these guys know the rookies seem to have made it through Sector 1 and now possibly Sector 2 just about. They're reaching the line, and they've made it through Sector 2 without any incidents.
That's always great to see.
Yeah, so that definitely sets a big pressure on these guys to have at least some form of a clean race if they can. I still don't see anybody spinning out. They all seem to be leaving tons of space, being very respectful. I think they're very painfully aware of how long 45 minutes are.
Oh, for sure. 45 minutes is definitely one of the longer races that we hold during our seasons, at least in the MX5 area.
Well,
It
that's
definitely
the
has its
difference
own set
this
of
year. I
challenges.
don't think you were here when we were announcing, but it is all long races all season long.
Oh, perfect. I
Pit,
like that that setup there.
Yeah, so pit stops all around, strategy all around. And for these guys here in the real amateur racing, we've got real penalty turned on. So track limits are going to be a little tighter. They cannot cross the line exiting the pits. They have to limit their own pit speed. So things should be a little bit cleaner, a little more interesting.
Oh, for sure. It's definitely going to have a little bit more. We're going to see a little more caution from these guys, I'm going to assume, just because of, like you said, the real penalty. You can actually get track cuts and track penalties for that during the race, as well as their entrance to the pits. You know, in previous seasons, we've seen guys just kind of dive into the pits as fast as possible because they've been able to do that, and not allowing them now to do that. We're going to see a little more hesitation and definitely some more caution in all aspects of the race.
Yeah, no more throwing caution to the wind, so to speak. But they've reached their final minute and a half of relaxation before the countdown begins. Kind of funny how far ahead the rookie event ended up being. These guys are actually all 3 minutes into their race now. Everybody's still keeping things relatively clean, close together. Just a little bumping and grinding, but nothing crazy. Oh, I stand corrected. Trent almost shunts Rick off the map, but does actually slow down and concede the position to him right away. So they really got some clean, respectful racing going on over in the rookie end of things.
Yeah, I just watched that on the live timing there, and it was definitely a risky move. The door was open though, so I do understand where Trent was coming from there.
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't try early on, you might not get that opportunity again. That's the risky part with these endurance events, so to speak. I mean, obviously, we're talking to some guy here who's done a 4-hour event and did pretty well.
Oh, if you're speaking about the Nordschleife race we did or recently, or we helped host, that was definitely a butt kicker, to put it bluntly. It was a rough one for me, but definitely enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, you managed to come through pretty strong on that one, though. Overall, I mean, I'd say that the Techley team in general had some or Techley and VM team had some misfortune here and there, but that's Nords for you. I mean, what is Nords if not unfortunate?
Oh, for sure. And we wanted to take the one of the slowest cars on the grid and make it fast, and I think we managed to do that pretty dang well.
That I think we have, as all the racers are slowly starting to connect. That flashing blue you see is just them being ghosted when their connection isn't at its finest. Once it drops to an acceptable range, they will be back on track. But we've got from the top Parmesan, Zabo, Tommy Boyd, Nick Cruz, Brett Anderson, Josh Fulton, Dancy, Max Yang, Rev174, Thorn, Fudzy, and Pogo. We got 20 seconds until the lights and a nice calm grid, 33 degrees on the track with an 8 km/h crosswind. So not going to see too much going into effect there. This is the moment of truth here. Parmesan getting ready as the lights getting ready. And season 1 kicks off. Parmesan does get the drive-through for the jump start. I was going to say it looked like he went just a moment early there, and he did. So that's going to be huge for Zabo, a drive-through this early on.
Most definitely, and he's required to take that drive through there within the first 2 laps, if I'm not mistaken.
Now,
Which is
here's
definitely going to set him back.
I wonder how long you can stay out without a pit on this, because if it was close as far as the fuel conservation goes, maybe he stays out for 2 laps and then takes the drive-through. But, a big send there by Nick Cruz. Oh, and another one by Max Yang takes out Thorn in the process. All these racers trying to get on. Nick Cruz currently beached. Is he going to be able to get off, or do we have to call the flag? Come on, Nick, keep it going. And the yellow car will not have to come out, although that might have helped him a little bit. But we will keep things moving on. Let's jump back over to the top of the grid. We'll take a look at Parmesan, who does still have that drive-through, we'll remind you, trying to hold off and get a little bit of space between himself and Zabo behind. At this point, he's going to have to hope for some major consistency to go his way. Josh Fulton and Brett going side by side through the chicane, and Brett does come out on top. Both racers take a little bit of hit on acceleration, so that's going to give Dancy an opportunity to close that gap a little bit. Rev, outside of drafting range, is just going to have to hope for a little bit of action in front to bring him back into that over the next couple corners. So a
Most definitely.
little more chaos than our rookie compadres, huh?
Oh, for sure. These guys are out to win tonight. And I was thinking there with Josh Fulton and Brett Anderson there, they are buddies on and off the track, if I'm not mistaken. And you'd have to think, it was their side by side through that chicane worth it? Because we did see Brett go a little bit deep, maybe getting himself a track cut there. And these guys are only given 3 or 4 before they are given that time penalty.
Yeah, it's definitely something you don't want to risk. And now he's fed his previous teammate in the GT3 season to the Wolves here a little bit. Dancy taking advantage of that battle to try and put the pressure on Josh is going to force him into some awkward lines. Dancy definitely has the acceleration edge, and it's a long straightaway. You can see Rev 174 just biding his time, waiting to see what happens with turn 1. These guys are as close together as they can be, but Dance is just creeping further and further ahead.
Dancy seems to give Josh that insight, saying, hey, I don't want to fight you on this one. We have a long race. Don't want any incidents quite this early. And as Dancy does slip right back in for that slipstream down this long straight that we have coming up. I do also see that Parmesan has taken his pit stop there, or his drive-through, I should say, and is making his way back through the grid immediately. No hesitation at all, just getting out there and getting those elbows out.
Yeah, and that is definitely a testament to his pace. He was able to take the drive-through, and he still came out top 10. I know there's only 12 racers on the grid, but it's not like they really got spread out that far. Fudzy, on the other hand, now fighting for his life a little bit after trying to let Parmesan through, throws himself off the pace, and will be looking to try and defend against Pogo, the DLRT livery behind.
Most definitely, and Fuzzy does seem to be doing a great job of that, just showing enough of the car to give Pogo the thought about making that move, but not enough to do it safely, which is a great class in defensive driving.
Yeah, and we see a lot of guys kind of getting closer and closer, but I think trying to keep the big picture in mind, knowing how long this race is, it's better to force a mistake than try and go for a maybe of an opportunity. Josh Fulton being really aggressive with these curbs, trying to put a little bit of distance between himself and Dancy, but does seem to be costing him a little bit more than helping him, as Dancy able to creep closer and closer to that drafting range. With all these straightaways,
you really a little bit sideways on the exit of that corner, losing a little time. Thankfully, it's just a short straight before the next corner, but that could have been very detrimental for him over this next long straight.
Yeah, definitely something he's got to watch out for. Wants to keep an eye on that consistency. And speaking of consistency, Parmesan and overtakes go hand in hand. You can already see him sizing up his next opponent there, Rev 174. He gets an explosive entrance into the straightaway, and he might find himself in drafting range at the end of this straight, but won't be close enough to make something happen on this corner. So this is actually going to be Parmesan's first full clean lap. So definitely interested to see what his time ends up being. Zabo now up front by 3 seconds with a 2:15.8 as his best time on the board. Parmesan going to be looking to get that back as soon as possible. I'm assuming we're going to see an undercut strategy of sorts just to stay in that clean airs wherever he can.
For sure, we do see that Tommy Boy is falling off a tiny bit to Zabo in front. Could be thinking that there might be a heavier fuel load on Tommy Boy's car there, but we have no idea as of right now. We'll come down to pit stop strategy.
And we are trying to keep up with all the different action going here. A lot of these guys are looking for these early opportunities, as we talked about in qualifying. You don't know if you're going to get a second chance, so you got to make the most of what you have in these first couple laps. Thorne certainly trying to do that after getting punted by Max Yang in lap 1. Now has found a chance to crack further into the top 10. Oh, gets sent again, this time by Nick Cruz, but manages to keep moving this time. Nick does get the better acceleration out of the deal and will be able to pull alongside and try and keep Thorne out of that top 10. I think we're going to see a late braking move here, though, because Thorne is not one to give up, and he's got the shorter entrance. Oh, and he sends it through with some speed.
Thorne did not seem very happy about that light tap from behind there from the sorry, number 5 car of Nick Cruz. I would be happy myself, and Thorne said, "That's my corner. I'm taking it."
Yeah, certainly made the most of that opportunity. Pogo looking to hold out in front of Fuzzy now. I think we missed that pass. Oh, as we see the wheel to wheel, Thorne and Nick going at it there. You are not wrong. Thorne not happy with the way that previous interaction turned out. He's going to be looking for that top 10 spot back, no matter how it comes.
As Fuzzy gets on the grass just a tiny bit and loses his exit there onto the front straight, giving up 2 positions in just 2 corners. Very unfortunate there.
And it
he
does
is still
give
in
Max
drafting range and will get the slipstream.
No, you're good.
No worries. I'm just I'm ranting over here.
No, I'm just
seeing.
Saying that Max is going to be able to possibly take advantage of a opportunity.
Thorne shoots up the inside, has contact there with Nick Cruz, and they both get the bad end of the stick there.
Yeah, Thorne goes for the lunge there. It almost looked like he might have had the opportunity. I'm watching back on the stream. Yeah, it does look like Nick turns to the inside a little bit early. But it was something that I can guarantee you will end up getting looked at after the race. My net ticket opens up 36 minutes from now.
Oh, for sure. That is one thing we have to mention is this is our amateur league, meaning there are some more strict rules. So these guys can protest incidents after the race. So it is definitely in their best bet to avoid collisions. Even if they are accidental, they can result in a penalty of any kind.
Yeah, now we are going to let these guys put a little bit more space between them. Looks like Thorne was able to make the most of that opportunity. Fulton did get passed by Parmesan, but is currently able to use him as a little bit of a tow towards Brett Anderson in front. I know those two were running side by side for a little bit, so Josh is probably going to be looking to get that opportunity back now that he spaced himself out from Dance just a little bit. Tommy Boy 6 seconds away from Zabo. Brett Anderson 5 seconds beyond that. So Parmesan really going to be looking to close down that gap. He's currently got a 2:15.9 as to Zabo's 2:15.8. That being said, Zabo is on one hell of a heater this lap.
For sure, Zabo is definitely taking advantage of that clean air that he has after that jump start from Parmesan. He's definitely pulling away from Tommy there, and like I said before, this could be a strategy thing for Tommy, running a heavier fuel load and requiring a slower or shorter pit stop down later in the race. We see Brett Anderson going defensive, braking early on Parmesan, saying, "Hey, it's no problem. Your corner." Doesn't want to fight him, knows that could lose him time to Josh Fulton behind.
Yeah, I think he knows that ultimately that's not his battle right now. He does see his buddy coming up in his rearview mirror, and he wants to keep that distance. He knows that Josh can get pretty deadly in that drafting range. He does a good job at focusing on his exits into those big straightaways and making sure to stay within the tow. Oh, looks like we're going to go back to a little bit of action here between the dynamic duo, Nick Cruz and Thorne. Going to be side by side one more time. We'll see how things shape up as they head into Shell Corner. Thorne going to brake a little bit early as Nick manages to hold off on the corner. Thorne does have the acceleration advantage heading into the parking lot, and we'll try and take the longer run into the Pirelli Wiggles. Oh, a big spin there by Fuzzy.
Spinning into the inside wall.
And unfortunately, that's going to put him well behind these guys. He does get back on the horse and get moving, but I want to say that cost him nearly 10 seconds. Thorne now falling well back from Nick Cruz, so we're going to give them a moment because it looks like Josh Fulton might actually be looking for a move on Brett Anderson. Really sends it down the line, and Brett having to get out of the way to avoid contact with the rear bumper does go off the track. It looks like he might have even picked up a track cut in that moment. I know he's not going to be thrilled with the way that worked out, but Josh probably feeling good as he makes his way through, even if only for a moment, as this is turning into a three-way battle for P4.
But Josh should have to be happy with himself there. He's been very assertive this evening, putting his car exactly where it needs to be and showing the elbows just enough to not be in the way at all, but also not giving any openings to any of his competitors. So we do see Josh Fulton in the pits now, looking like he could take the undercut strategy. May have been taking a lighter fuel load at the beginning of this race.
Yeah, and we'll just check to see he is actually pulling into the pits. So you are correct. That's very interesting. We'll have to see how that plays out, where he ends up later down the line. We're going to jump now over to Dance, who's trying to close in on Brett Anderson wherever he can. You see Josh Fulton getting a move on, trying to work his way out of the pits, finds himself right around Thorn, and will try and work his way back up the grid from P11.
For sure. I don't dislike that move at all from Josh Fulton. You know, one of these things is going to be clean and dirty air here. Not that these cars have downforce, but having to make your way through a pack can definitely be difficult. And Josh says, "Hey, I need to burn some fuel off here and make this stop. So why not take advantage of this clean air that I'll get from making the stop and do what I can, gain as much time as possible."
Yeah, now the only thing I'm concerned about is I don't know how long a full tank lasts. Hopefully it does last as long as Josh is anticipating it to, because that is a big gamble to take. We'll jump over now to Nick Cruz, who seems to be making his way closer and closer to Max Yang in front. We haven't seen Thorn close that gap to the two just yet, but a little bit of battling between them could be what Thorn is looking for.
For sure, and Thorn may have a little bit of damage. Let me interrupt that battle there.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have the damage turned down a little bit, but not off. So these guys, when they take beatings like that, eventually something in the suspension can change, something in that bumper can change. Even the cars that aren't too aerodynamic see some issues arise. Max Yang letting off the throttle to allow Nick Cruz to go through. Does look like he took a little bit of a cut on that inside line. We'll see where all the penalties line up after the event. 31 minutes remaining of the real amateur race session, 25 minutes remaining of the real rookie session, where we do still have some pretty decent battles going on, as Noah F is holding the fire to Matt Doom, only 3 seconds away. So we got a closer battle going on over there than over here.
I didn't have a chance to take a look at how many cars were on grid for the rookie race. I apologize. But it looked like there was a pretty decent turnout.
Yeah, they're doing pretty good over there. Looks like everybody's starting to take their alternate pit strategies and stuff. So we've hit that awkward part in their race where you can't really tell where things are in the leaderboard. Same is going to be true of these guys pretty soon, as Fudzy works his way for his pit stop. So maybe 30 minutes is about as long as you can go on a full tank. Nick Cruz thinking about a move through Shell, but I think he's getting flashbacks to how this section worked out with Thorn. Might just be taking his time to get through the parking lot now and hammer on through. Ooh. Which he does manage to get by pretty smoothly on Pogo. Man, if you take a look at that track map in the top corner, you can see just how spread out things are. The only thing you can't see is our P1 leader, Zabo, who is rapidly approaching that corner at the end of the third set part of Lakeshore Drive. What a mouthful. Pogo seems to have gotten shaken up a little bit by this group catching up to him. Starting to fall off the pace, and Max Yang is looking for his opportunity here.
Okay, this is also definitely the time. This is the time in our normal length races in the previous seasons that these guys would be about 5 minutes left in their race, only a couple laps left. So some of these guys are going to have that mental fatigue starting to set in. Some of these guys that aren't used to doing these longer race sessions. So we'll definitely see that come into play as the time ticks down towards the last 10 or so minutes.
Yeah, and you know, they're probably starting to focus on, do I take my pit now? Do I wait? Am I ever going to get a lap as good as Parmesan, who just put up a 2:14.720 on his last go around the track? That is the fastest lap by over 5 tenths.
The inside wall there.
We do, and so speak about that fatigue setting in. You can see that monotony is getting to him. I think, is that a racer going into the pits behind them? It is. Rev
That was, we see Rev
174.
and ANC.
So a few differences in pit strategies going on all around the grid here. Dancy coming out in front of Max Yang, down on the acceleration though, so Max is going to try and race him out of the corner. He'll have a lot of pace, and he does manage to get by, so that's going to be a little bit of a miscalculation there for Dancy. I think he was trying to get out before this battling group and stay with that clean air in front, because these guys are definitely operating at a different pace. Max Yang currently with a 2:20.2, Dancy with a 2:18.3 as their fastest lap time. So this could cost him a little bit.
We see Parmesan now looking for a move on Tommy Boy there for that P2 position.
Looking around the outside of the S's.
Definitely a tough one to make, and as Tommy breaks as late as he possibly can, just holding an apex, forcing Parmesan to get off the line. We will see Parmesan does have a run down here, and Tommy doesn't seem to be defending too hard. Decides it's not worth it. I'll take the outside here and try and go for a switchback. It's exactly what he does. Not quite enough acceleration out of these Miatas to make that super efficient, but Tommy is still right there.
Almost seems like he's hanging back a little bit. I don't think he is going to put up a fight against Parmesan powering through, and might actually try and use him as a tow to catch up to Szabo. I mean, he hasn't been able to make it happen with the plate that he's had here in the first 20 minutes of the race. Why not shake things up? Why not see if you can keep that pace of Parmesan and get there together? Dancy definitely just had a sniff through the S's, but wasn't able to make it happen as he works towards Sand Trap and into Sand Dune. I think he's going to have another look around the inside. Fakes it, I think, to try and see if he can get Max to make a little mistake, but not going to happen there. They'll have to get a little more creative than that. Or not.
You see Brett Anderson in the pits as well as Max Yang entering the pits. They have two drivers now in the pits. We see Pogo in the back there chasing down Dancy.
Sorry, I'm laughing because I don't know if you saw in the background there, Max Yang just slamming on the brakes and actually pulling to the side to avoid getting the pit speed penalty. I'm not sure if he ended up getting it or not. I didn't see a notification about it, so I'll hope for his sake he didn't. Josh Fulton, it does end up ahead of Brett Anderson by 2 seconds plus, so the undercut strategy severely working in Josh Fulton's favor there. Ends up very well clear of Brett Anderson, who he was just shy of going into that stretch. So a little bit of an underrated move there. We do see Rev 174 all over the back of Brett Anderson, not giving him space to breathe, and that's going to just help Josh get further away as he'll have to go a little bit defensive.
For sure, and I really like that strategy call by Josh there, getting into the pits early and giving himself clean air to put as many good laps in as possible while the rest of these guys maintain their position in the pack and have to continue fighting.
Yeah, and it does look like Brett's now getting a little bit of an opportunity to start working back if he can. Max Yang has picked up a 5-second penalty for track limits. And so he's going to have to be a little bit more careful now as he's got Fudzy behind him well within that distance. So going to have to get on the pace and start to put a little bit of distance between them if he wants to hang on to P11. Oh, and all three of the leaders are in the pit lane. It seems that Szabo sent the wave through here with 9 laps remaining. I'm surprised nobody tried to stay out just a little bit longer, but I guess it didn't seem worth it for them. We'll see what happens with Parmesan and Tommy Boy. Tommy Boy getting out of the pits 5 seconds behind Parmesan, so I wonder what happened there.
You see Nick Cruz now in the pits as well, taking his pit stop.
Yeah,
the race.
Nick Cruz and Pogo are our last two racers to hold off on the pit. Looks like Pogo has just gone in, so that will give us our true standings here, which has Josh Fulton now sitting P5, only 4.4 seconds away from Dancy. So I believe the undercut strategy has officially worked as he continues to get further and further away from Brett Anderson, who cannot keep that Scrub Daddy number 17 motorsport car driven by Rev 174 out of his rearview mirror. I mean,
Rev is currently on a fastest lap, as I'm seeing right now, a 10th up at least here. He is absolutely pushing this car to the limit, trying to get past, looking on the inside, doesn't quite make the move, but we'll have a better exit on Brett Anderson coming into this next right-hander.
Yeah, it doesn't need to.
Nope.
Oh,
I'm trying to remember my corners.
One of them. Yeah, it's harder from that side. Hold on, we'll turn around. Into the Pirelli S's. There you go. And now it's the UBS bend into Lakeshore Drive. But wow, look at that.
Made an absolute beautiful move there and has put himself now 1.7 up on Brett Anderson behind.
Yeah, that is an excellent job by Rev 174. Did pull off a very clean pass and just managed to carry that acceleration through a very important part of the track. Now, that does seem to have shaken the mojo a little bit here of the Minnesota Wild racer, but if he can get his head back in the game, we've seen some very, very strong qualifying laps. He is 2 seconds off his pace right now. If he can get back on it, without a doubt, he'll be right back in the hunt. Speaking of in the hunt, sorry.
I was going to mention our P11 battle there. 1.1 seconds is Fuzzy to Max Yang. And keep in mind, Max Yang does have that 5-second track limits penalty. So if I'm Max Yang there, I'm trying to get as far away as possible from Fuzzy, burn as much of my tires, just get that 5 seconds out, because as right now, Fuzzy is taking home P11.
Yeah, it's certainly not going to be easy. The only other hope for him is if he can, try and get Fuzzy to make a mistake behind him, as we see Fuzzy toying with those track limits himself, knows that he can't pick up a 5-second penalty, but he also can't fall outside of that 5-second range. So it's a delicate spot to be in for the number 19 racer.
For sure, and I'm well aware, but I did have a 15-second speeding penalty in the pits in my last endurance race, and it was one of those things where it was always in the back of your mind, knowing you have to be just that much farther ahead to keep that position.
Yeah, I mean, 15 seconds is a brutal one, so hopefully none of these racers have to endure that today. Fuzzy, though, does need to find another gear, as he has lost another second or so to Max Yang in front. That lap 3 seconds slower than the man he needs to be within 5 seconds of. So we'll let him focus up on that. Brett Anderson hanging within 2 seconds, almost a second and a half to Rev 174. So not letting that Scrub Daddy Motorsport out of his sight. You can actually even see Josh Fulton working his way to this chicane ahead. So he's got some motivation in front of him, and 20 minutes is a lot of time.
Most definitely, and Rev is chewing into that gap between him and Josh Fulton, now down to under 3 seconds. It was about 4.5 when we first saw the overtake made on Brett. So this could be dangerous for Josh Fulton if he doesn't take it into a higher gear and put a little more pace down on the track.
Yeah, we do see a couple of these guys all starting to put some gaps between them. Things are getting a little bit hairy as we get into the final 20 minutes. But Nick Cruz, I think, is trying to capitalize on a little bit of fatigue himself. We did see it with Pogo. We might be starting to see it with Brett Anderson, as Nick devouring that gap between them. Rev goes off through sand dune, gets caught up in it and into the wall, manages to find himself facing straight forward, so doesn't lose too much time, but is right back behind Brett Anderson. He does have that draft advantage and a little bit of an acceleration advantage into this straight. Is he going to go for something? He's got plenty of time to think about it, and maybe even a little extra time to execute. Oh, wow. Look at that acceleration. He hammers into the first turn, does get Brett to make that mistake that we were talking about earlier, and it'll probably put him a little closer to his final track warning.
For sure. And if I'm Rev, I'm wanting to get past Brett as soon as possible. If I know I have a little bit more pace, I'm trying to get away from that battle as quick as possible, because we see Nick Cruz there chomping at the bit, trying to get as close as he can to this battle here for P6.
Yeah, he's really been making his way up the rankings here. Nick Cruz does have that incident with Thorne possibly under investigation, as does do a couple other racers for some of the moments we've seen throughout. So nobody is necessarily safe. Everybody wants to get by and put some distance between themselves and the other guys on the grid. And it looks like they are all nearing some of their final opportunities to do so.
You see a slight gap forming now between Nick Cruz and the two cars in front. I also see a gap building from Brett Anderson to Josh Fulton, so this must be really relieving for Josh up there in fifth place currently in the Tech Lead Racer, giving himself a little more of a gap, a little bigger buffer in case he has any small mistakes as we get further and further into this race.
Yeah, well, speaking of mistakes, it looks like there might have been one in his favor during Sector 2 for Dancy, as he puts up a 37 to Josh's 34, now puts Fulton within 2 seconds of that P4 spot. So we might see a battle yet out of those guys up front. But for now, we've got the three-way battle for P6. Rev doing a great job at applying the pressure here today. He has been all over the back of Brett Anderson every opportunity he gets, but now it is Nick Cruz's turn. He's going to start to make Rev keep an eye on his mirrors, and the two of these guys might start to fall away. Oh, is that Josh? He pits.
We might have had a fuel issue there. I'm not sure what quite happened, but that may have cost Josh his P5 spot.
Now it has been,
I should say,
about 20 minutes here. Interesting. I wonder, I mean, we did see all of the pits go before the halfway point. So I wonder if it's a two-stop. I mean, it's certainly possible.
That is, and you know, I know that Josh is not one to miscalculate his fuel there. I know he has some a calculator there, right to plug in those numbers. But it definitely could be a two-stop. You see Nick Cruz just running right to the back of Rev there, almost costing them both a big chunk of time up there at Brett.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough spot there. Rev did have a bit of an awkward re-entry following his off-track incident, so I think both racers are going to be just looking to get back on the pace now, as they've lost time to Brett Anderson in front. They're letting that P5 spot get away out in the distance. You know, maybe that sets the tone that they need to be bump drafting on these straights and working together rather than focusing on the little moves here.
For sure, Rev does seem to be driving in his mirrors a bit here. Just the intimidation from the car behind, putting pressure on all the time is really tough. And if you're not careful, you can get caught just looking behind you more than you are looking in front of you, as Rev squeezes Nick Cruz on the outside there before this very wide chicane.
Yeah, and I mean, there was definitely a little bit of side-by-side on the track, but both racers managing to continue through. Nick actually picking up a 5-second penalty for cutting here through that section with the S's. Oh, as he is very late on the brakes and hits into the back of Rev 174, but he does wait to allow for Rev to get back on to the track. So they will be able to continue their hunt, but not without a little bit of time lost. And that gives Josh Fulton a big advantage. If this is a two-stop race, he has definitely just cleared both of them and is working his way back towards Brett Anderson. He does have a ton of that clean air again. Oh, and we see Brett go into the pits, so it might be a two-stop race.
It looks like it's going to be. Definitely did not expect that, but Josh is looking like Josh's strategy is going to be superior here compared to the rest of his opponents. He's going to clear Brett Anderson with ease.
Yeah, it definitely does. Now, we know he was really going up against Dan C, so that's going to be the interesting one. He got to within 2 seconds before taking his pit. Now has the undercut and open air strategy to keep moving. The only difference is this time Dance has the same. So Dance has been doing consistent high 218s. Josh did have a little bit of an off lap that last one with a 224, though that's going to be his out lap. Never mind. So I guess the question is, how do the rest of his laps go? Dancy having a little bit of a brush up with the grass, but doesn't cost him anything as he heads towards the S's. And we do know the top 3 racers all pit at nearly the last minute. It was 5 minutes for each of them. Looks like Parmesan actually did go into the pits, finds himself 2.4 seconds behind Tommy Boy, so he's going for the undercut on Szabo to see if he can somehow close that gap just a little bit more. That's going to be an interesting one to see where it shakes out. He's currently 22 seconds away from Szabo. It's unclear how much time has been added on the pits. It seems generally about 10 seconds from what I can tell, maybe even a little bit less, but she's just definitely going for an alternative strategy here. I mean, if anyone's going to pull it off, you know?
It's got to be. It's got to be him.
It's got to be the man himself, Parmesan.
Dancy ducking into the pits now. Make sure he gets himself slowed down before that pit board.
So this is the moment of truth. We were hanging out here because we wanted to see where Josh Fulton falls in relation. Nick Cruz was hammering on the pace. Looks like, is Nick Cruz going for a pit as well? He is. So both racers will come in. This will give a good sense to see where Josh Fulton does actually come out. I don't see him coming around that bend yet. There he is. He'll have a lot of speed. He'll have a lot more speed into that next sector of the track as well. So this gap isn't fully closed yet. We'll see where it all comes down to. Starting at 6.5 seconds. And right about here is where Dancy should be able to get back on his normal pace. And it looks like Fulton will end up 3.5 seconds behind. So does lose a second and a half on the undercut this time. Doesn't seem to have worked with Dancy's current pace. But we still got 11 minutes left, so that's a lot of race to figure some of this stuff out. We'll jump over now to Pogo. Sorry, you were saying?
No, you're good. I was clear my throat. My apologies.
But Pogo, as he tries to find a way up to Nick Cruz in front, within that 1 second range. Nick Cruz, fresh off the pits, just barely got out in front of Pogo. He's going to be on a little bit of a heavier fuel load as Pogo still needs to go in. We'll see how he fares. Parmesan starting to creep closer and closer. Tommy Boy once more as our rookie grid in the bottom right corner of your screen has entered the final 5 minutes of their race, with P7 and P6 still pretty close together, looking for an opportunity to fight things out one last time. For us, it's P8 and P7, but it's something about that P7 spot seems to be finding themselves in fights here in the final minutes of week 1 events. Everything going pretty well for most of the racers. Haven't seen too many big incidents for the most part.
You see that Josh Fulton is making that gap smaller and smaller as this lap continues. He has brought it down from 3.5 to the 3.2 that it currently sits at.
Yeah, and that's within 2 minutes time there, so certainly on pace to try and make something happen. We did just see Nick Cruz go off into the dirt through Sand Trap. Had a clean sand dune and Rolex for the recovery's sake, but does put Pogo within 2 seconds of attack of that time now. So he's going to need to stay focused in these final 10 minutes. Parmesan starting to get closer and closer within his 1.2 second range to Tommy Boy in front. That is going to be traffic he's going to want to get through. I was gonna say, looks like Tommy Boy let him by, I'm imagining.
Looks like that may be the case. Tommy Boy may be low on fuel here. He seems to be moving pretty slow. That could have been just from letting Parmesan by, or a little bit of fuel saving to make it to the end of this lap.
It could definitely be a little bit of both. We'll jump over to Szabo and see what he ends up doing. Still not going in for his pit. But it looks like he'll be able to stay out for one more. Sorry, I was just getting a little sidetracked in the message there. So they've completed 16 laps. This is about the same distance he went last time, so he's trying to stretch it for one more. We'll see if Tommy Boy tries to do the same. I mean, at this point, I was going to say Tommy Boy is kind of in his own race here, as he manages to keep the pit speed and avoid any pit penalty there. We'll see where he comes out, but I don't think it's going to be anywhere that gives these guys an opportunity. But man, that is definitely a quick pit stop for these guys, huh?
For sure. I mean, they're running their fuel all the way down. They don't need much more. They only have 7 minutes remaining, so not too many more laps left. I did want to mention that Nick Cruz does still have that 5-second time penalty for cutting, if I'm not mistaken. And if he doesn't keep that gap that he has now, he could lose P7.
That's true. And same goes for Max Yang, just narrowly hanging onto the gap between himself and Thorne. Both racers. Oh, Max Yang does still have a pit to go, so he might not, might see that happen anyway. Giles Fulton now, though, creeping closer and closer. He's had some terrific laps, nearly half a second up on that last lap. That's the pace he needs, but he's getting it real close to the end. He's going to need almost a mistake at this point from Dancy in front. But that consistency is key, and it's something that 23 car is certainly hanging on to. Toying with the track limits a little bit. Don't want to get dinged for that at this point in the game. You're not going to be able to make up 5 seconds without an act of God. Although
most definitely, and Josh is putting in some really stellar times right now. Last lap was a 2:18.0. Dancy having a 2:18.48. So it seems like we had a little mistake from Dancy there, shrinking that gap even farther, down to almost 2 seconds. So Josh has found a way to make up 8/10 just in this lap alone.
Yeah, I mean, Josh just had a personal best Sector 1 there with a 43.3, so picking up a half second in Sector 1. Looks like he might have picked up a little bit of a cut warning on that one, I'd imagine, as he toys with his personal best time and that gap to Dancy in front. Run up with the dirt before a long straightaway is never ideal, but thankfully it looks like Dancy's hugging that outside and costing himself a little bit of distance, allowing Josh to get closer and closer and make up for that brush up.
Absolutely, Josh on a stellar lap currently. He does have a faster lap than Dancy currently with a 17.7. Dancy only able to manage an 18.18. So there is a slight discrepancy there, and if Josh can pull out those fast lap times towards the end of this race, he may have a chance at that P4 spot.
We just completely missed, but I think Szabo went in for his pit and is now behind Parmesan.
He did indeed. There must have been a mistake there in that pit stop, because he had quite the gap there.
Yeah, it looks like a 2:42.113 on his last lap. I'm not entirely positive what would have cost that much time, as we're seeing like 222s tend to be around, or sorry, 224s, 225s tend to be around what some of these other guys have done. But interesting, we'll have to check that one out. Do see Rev 174 looking for a move on Pogo. So while Josh continues to try and close that gap, we've got a few other racers not ready to call it a day. Pogo and Rev 174 both pushing it to the end. Pogo really pushing it to the end, as he's 9 laps in since his last pit stop. Same goes for Max Yang, who does finally go in. Pogo's playing a dangerous game, though. We'll stick with him as Josh continues to try and close that gap, now falling back to 3 seconds. And we just want to see if Pogo makes it all the way around.
Definitely gonna be super low on fuel here. Might see some fuel saving. If not, he has calculated his fuel quite well.
Yeah, definitely doing a great job of at least holding on. He's still full throttle, so I'm not seeing any signs that the fuel is the issue. Josh has made up 7/10 on that 3-second gap, so right back to where he started, but only has 3 minutes remaining. Really needs to try and make something happen.
Josh needs to put in some miracle laps here, or pray that Dancy gets a penalty of some sort. But he has put up a tremendous drive so far, so I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of consistency coming out of that number 47 Logitech Racer as he swings through this sand dune. Rev 174 picks up a 5-second penalty for cutting. So that is the break that Pogo was looking for. He can take a little bit of a breather and hope that he doesn't need that little pass, as we see Brett Anderson spun off to the side here. Oh, it looks like he gets caught up in sand dune. It allows Nick Cruz to go by, and Rev 174, who does have that 5-second penalty, is once more going to get behind the Minnesota racer and try and find himself back in those mirrors. We're nearing probably the final 2 laps of the race, if we had to guess here. Parmesan currently. Sorry?
Did he take his? Did he go for a second stop there?
He did. He went for like a severe undercut. He went around the time when Josh did.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. But Pogo does have to go into the pit, so he will fall outside of that 5-second range to Brett Anderson, or sorry, to Rev 174. So that 5-second penalty not changing too much. Just trying to give you a sense of the insane gap Parmesan has managed to pull off so far. There is your P2. Oh, Zalwo. Sorry, getting a little yawny here. Here is your P3 of Tommy Boy. And, I guess it's actually going to be P12 Fuzzy in front. And then your P3 Tommy Boy. And then we're just going to go all the way over here. Just still going. Give me one more minute here. Almost there. Almost there. And here is Dancy and Josh Fulton battling things out in the final 2 laps of the race. So Josh is only going to get one more opportunity. He is still outside of the 2-second range. I don't think he's unfortunately going to be able to make that happen without a mistake from Dancy. So he's really going to have to get creative, try and put the pressure on in this final lap.
These 2 racers have done a tremendous job being consistent and quicker on this track. I wouldn't be surprised if they both push as hard as possible this final lap, especially Josh Fulton looking for one more position, especially with that 10-second gap he has to Nick Cruz behind, which is truly more like 15 because of his 5-second time penalty for cutting. Josh can lay it all on the line here and see what he can do on this final lap of the race.
Yeah, and they're both just trading personal bests here. Dancy with a 17.7, then Josh Fulton with a 17.4. It is all going to come down to this last one. Fudzy picks up a 5-second penalty for cutting in the final lap of the race for him. That's unfortunate. Things you hate to see.
Unfortunate. It is one of the extra challenges of being in the amateur league here and the RIR servers. You've got to be a little bit more careful on your track limits, a little more precise, a little bit more difficult all the way around.
Yeah, absolutely. We are just taking a peek to see where Josh Fulton can end up, but it doesn't look like he's going to get that opportunity. So let's jump over to Parmesan as he rounds some of the final corners of the track. One hell of a race, one hell of a strategy. Still want to get a little bit of clarity on what happened with Zabo there. I'm sorry we did miss it on the broadcast. We'll try and find a way to get it to you guys. Well, we could get it back on the replay in just a moment. But Parmesan crosses the line as your Season 7 Week 1 champion. Not far off in the distance is the new man, the myth, the legend, Zabo, putting up one hell of a fight to Parmesan all race long. Tommy Boy coming in for a strong P3 as he makes his way through the chaos. And we'll jump over to Fudzy, just looking to bring it home, which they managed to. Wrapping up a P12, not the start to the season I'm sure they were looking for, but did find themselves an agent of misfortune. Not much they can do there. 5 seconds were added to the final time. We do see Dancy crossing the line with a well-deserved P4 as Josh Fulton looks on within 2 seconds of that man. It was an amazing battle between them. Just not enough time for Fulton to make it all the way through. I'd say if there was about 15 more minutes, it would have been an absolute battle, but was not able to go down that way for Fulton today. Still an amazing race by the two of them.
One thing to mention here towards the end of these final races coming across the line, Rev did have that 5-second time penalty. I think that does allow Thorn, or actually does not allow Thorn to make his way into the top 8, which is definitely very unfortunate for Rev to get that penalty, but a good job of maintaining that gap, keeping himself well away from losing a position to that penalty.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of these penalty markers go up as some various racers cross the line. So looks like track limits was the name of the game today. 3 chances is all you get for a 45-minute race. So certainly understandable why we're seeing so many. But Max Yang will bring it on home to wrap up Season 7, Week 1 of our MX5 seasons.
What a wonderful race to begin with.
Wonderful indeed. Now, we're going to do something we haven't done here. I'm going to actually pull up the replay so we can try and see if we can pinpoint what happened to Zabo. Give me just a moment. It would be on the pit lap, which hopefully we can find out. Bear with me, y'all. See if we can figure out exactly what lap that occurred on. We're getting there. We're getting there. Zabo's long lap was lap 17. Okay. That's what we're looking for. We're loaded up. We're loading up. Yeah. Leave me alone. All right, so 17 is what we're looking for. And it's going to be right here. Maybe we do it like this. So gap to Parmesan. Which one's Parmesan? So Parmesan's behind still. Nope, not so much. Oh, perfect.
Here's
Here we
that
go.
move to the pits.
Perfect. How about that?
Makes his way into the pits.
Oh, misses the
misses his pits
box.
Very unfortunate there for Sabo.
This is a very long time still, though. I wonder if they didn't have a second pit strategy set up or something. And there goes
Definitely.
Jesus. Oh,
It's
so
unfortunate.
that's a shame. So yeah, it is going to be something to do with missing the pit box or not having a fuel strat set up, unfortunately. So that is the deciding factor in a 45-minute race. Just goes to show that anything can happen. But on that one, I think we'll let you guys go, and we'll see you guys 2 weeks from now or this Friday if you want to watch our GT3 series. Adios. Thanks for joining me, Java.
Thank you for having me.